Something strange is going on. It's following a blockbuster trade we saw occur halfway through the NHL season surrounding Mikko Rantanen. Some new reports have dropped linking Mikko Rantanen to, yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to break down these shocking reports and discuss what it means going forward. But before we get into that, folks, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over today. Darius, I didn't think we'd be having this conversation, but some things have dropped, and it is very, very interesting, and it is surrounding Mikko Rantanen. Now, obviously, former Colorado Avalanche, and now he got traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, where he's off to a bit of a rocky start there, but some interesting things have started to arise here, and obviously, the Leafs aren't playing games right now. This is kind of like the mini trade deadline before the actual trade deadline in March. It's been pretty quiet thus far. Insider marquee teams named who will move a mountain to try to sign Mikko Rantanen in free agency, and we'll dive into those teams, and as you can kind of guess based off of this video, it is one of the teams being the Toronto Maple Leafs. And insider Elliotte Friedman, speaking on the NHL Network Radio, names two marquee teams that he believes will be among those doing everything they can to sign Rantanen regardless of their cap situation. And that is the New York Rangers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. It goes on to say teams will make room for this guy if they have a feeling that he's going to come to them. The Rangers, Toronto, it won't just be teams with a lot of cap room. It'll be teams saying, like, okay, I have to move a mountain. If I have to move a mountain, to get Mikko, I will. This is actually a little bit interesting. You rarely see Elliotte Friedman linking teams in general to players of this magnitude this early. But man, oh man, this would change everything for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
This could get very interesting. Now, is Mikko Rantanen going to become a Toronto Maple Leaf this season? Probably not. There is a lot of reports out there that Rantanen could actually be moved again before this year's trade deadline because things haven't been going as well as they would have thought in Carolina. And on top of it, doesn't actually sound likely that he's going to re-sign in Carolina. It could happen, but it doesn't sound likely. So that is still on the table. Is he going to be a Leaf this year? I don't think so. I don't think Mitch Marner is going to waive his trade clause, and that would be the only thing that would get this done at this point. Now, this offseason, there's a lot going on. Would you rather Mikko Rantanen on the Leafs than Mitch Marner? Because that's exactly what this would be, right? Like you would swap one out for the other. I would. Mikko Rantanen, we're going to get into his stats and everything. He's a more physical player. He's won a Stanley Cup. I would do that, although he's going to come with a higher price tag. He's obviously going to make more than Mitch Marner. I think that in any situation, whether Mitch Marner is a Toronto Maple Leaf or not, the salary cap is going up a lot. I think it's very interesting. I think the Leafs would, to a degree, have to move mountains. I feel like the Rangers would have to move like hills, if that makes sense. Like they're not in the same situation. But I think that the Leafs, if they wanted to get it done, they could definitely get it done. So especially this offseason, right? They have so much salary coming off the books. To a degree, obviously you have to re-sign John Tavares. Matthew Knies is going to get a very healthy raise as well. So obviously, you're going to save some money with Tavares. A lot of it is going to go back to Knies. Obviously, the salary cap's going up. What does Mitch Marner want? Sounds like maybe close to 14 million. It's going to be very interesting. And I think if they wanted to get it done, they could this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, this offseason is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you have Mitch Marner, who we made a video on earlier. I see you guys in the comment section. A lot of you guys do not want to extend Mitch Marner. That's going to be a very interesting question with the cap going up. It maybe if they miss out on Mitch Marner or if they intentionally leave Mitch Marner up to free agency, they pivot then to Mikko Rantanen because if he's available, that would be a perfect fit for this team. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. You can see here, the Toronto Maple Leafs, as we know, have their own free agents to worry about, notably Mitch Marner, of course, John Tavares as well, who will be commanding a contract of somewhere in the same neighborhood as Rantanen, as well as John Tavares, who won't be residing in that high-rent district, will still get pretty penny. Will they abandon either or both of them to try to sign Rantanen instead? I do not think they're going to abandon John Tavares to get Mikko Rantanen. That being said, if they actually see Mikko Rantanen as a viable option in the sense of he wants to come to Toronto or he's open to it, I could see the Leafs absolutely pivoting away from Mitch Marner in order to get Mikko Rantanen. It'd be a pivot. Similar money. If you're going to spend the money on Mitch Marner and you're unsure about how he's going to perform in the playoffs, could make a ton of sense to shift that focus to Mikko Rantanen, shake up the core four while still retaining John Tavares. And I mean, I'll ask you this as well. If for whatever reason, let's say the Leafs had to pick between, Marner and Tavares or just Mikko Rantanen and missing out on Tavares, is that something that, again, maybe not 2 for 2, whatever it is, if you had to miss out on John Tavares in order to get Mikko Rantanen, is that something you'd be comfortable doing, assuming, of course, you don't get Mitch Marner as well?
I think so, but I think a lot of these teams and GMs are very transparent with, their players sometimes, where I think that Brad Treliving and Brandon Shanahan, if he's still around at that point in time, would go to John Tavares and be like, listen, man, like you got to take like 2 million less because we're trying to sign Mikko Rantanen and win a Stanley Cup here. And then he might be like, you know what? Fair play, right? Or maybe there's deferred money involved. We've seen a lot of that with a couple players over the last few years. Obviously, you see it a lot in the MLB and stuff like that. But again, that's another option, right? But I think that they would have a conversation conversation be like, listen, you're going to take $2 million less. If you really want to stay here, you're going to take less, and we're going to sign Mikko Rantanen. And I think Rantanen, because you brought this up a couple minutes ago too, I think that he would be open to going to any team that offers him like 3.5 or $14 million and they're a contender. I think he would be open to going anywhere because he wants to win another Stanley Cup. And I don't think he was, thinking that he was going to be traded out of Colorado. Honestly, I think that they have like kind of an internal salary cap where nobody was going to make more than Nathan MacKinnon. So with the salary cap going up, this has really changed everything in the NHL. So it's really a question this offseason. If, Mitch Marner doesn't perform again in the playoffs, do they, turn and shift their focus to Rantanen, who we know does perform in the playoffs and very well, and say, hey, why don't you come here? We'll give you $2 million more than, Mitch Marner was going to get or something like that. Pay him and make it work, because they can this year. I think that they can this offseason, especially with the reports that salary cap might actually be going up more this summer than initially reported as well. And it's going to go up $10 million every summer, or about 9 point something every summer after that as well.
Yeah, spoke about Mikko Rantanen. Off to a slow start. The former Avalanche forward is off to a slow start with his new team in Raleigh. Just 2 points in 6 games. He's playing 3 fewer minutes per night. This will be the most intriguing story to watch when we come out of the Four Nations breaking closer to the deadline. I mean, there is a world as well where they make a trade for Mikko Rantanen, albeit I think that's a lot less likely. I think there actually is a good chance if he goes to free agency that the Leafs will have a strong chance to do it. They're obviously a fairly big market team, and they have and again, we talk about the internal cap in Colorado with Nathan MacKinnon. The Leafs, in theory, had that with Austin Matthews, but I think now with the cap going up, most teams that had internal caps are going to have to throw those out the window because it doesn't make any sense. You can't renegotiate these contracts once they're signed for Austin Matthews to make 15 or 16 million. And how he would fit in, I mean, he would fit in lovely anywhere. And this is obviously the current status of the Leafs lineup, and this could change before their next game following the Four Nations Cup. But if you add Mikko Rantanen into this and you take out Mitch Marner, because I do not see a world where they have Mitch Marner and Mikko Rantanen. I just don't think that's very likely unless a trade happens. But assuming that you go with Mikko Rantanen, it would, and this is nothing against Mitch Marner, I think it would be a very welcome change, and one that if they fail to get through, multiple playoff rounds, it might be something that they consider. That being said, I'm still pretty focused on this year and them winning with the team they have now, because Mitch Marner's having a breakout season. We saw him get the goal with the Four Nations Cup Team Canada. There is still, room there, but the fact that Elliotte Friedman's bringing this up now means there's probably some legs to A, him being a free agent, whether he gets traded or not, and B, Toronto making a serious run if it comes up, and it would make perfect sense.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep tabs on him and kind of see what this situation kind of unfolds at and what he's asking for, talking to his agent and whatnot as the offseason approaches. But I think a lot of this, again, mentioned it earlier, lies on the shoulders of this postseason. What happens this postseason? Not just Mitch Marner, the entire team, because I think, if the Leafs go out in the first round again this year, everyone's going to want change. Like they got to blow it up to a degree, right? Obviously, you have Austin Matthews. He's not going to move. You just signed William Nylander. I feel like he's not going to move. It would have to be Mitch Marner at this point. So something would have to change. I think it would be a welcome change, like you said, for Mikko Rantanen to come in. He's a proven winner. He's a big body. If there was a first line of Matthew Nyes, Austin Matthews, and Mikko Rantanen, Austin Matthews would be the lightest and the shortest person on that line. So it would be pretty scary in that way. But again, I think it would be a welcome change if that were to happen. But I think the Leafs have to either honestly win the Stanley Cup this year or bow out in the third round and look competitive. Like, there's no way you can go out like you did against Florida and Boston last year, right? There's just no way. So we will see how they perform in this year's playoffs. And I think that their plans will pivot based off that.
Yeah, it's going to be the biggest season for the Leafs in a very long time for the core four and for the future of this team. So we'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and let us know down below your thoughts on this. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.